I still remember the night the house went quiet. After my wife, Beverly, passed away, silence became a regular guest in every room. Her laughter used to fill the air, gentle, contagious, always humming with life. When she died, it felt like someone turned down the volume on the world. For months, I lived alone in that big, two-story house we built together. Every corner whispered her name. Her pictures still hung by the stairs, her scent still clung to the pillow beside mine. Grief doesn't end, you just learn to breathe through it. My son, Jason, came by often in those early months. He'd bring groceries, fix little things, sit with me over coffee. I thought it was love, that he was looking out for his old man. Maybe I was naive. Maybe I just needed to believe that my boy still cared. Jason wasn't a bad kid growing up. He was quiet, smart, always had that spark in his eyes. But after Beverly died, something in him shifted. Maybe it was the stress, maybe the bills, maybe life. Whatever it was, the warmth started to fade. One evening, he came over with his wife, Claire, and their little boy, Evan. They looked tired, tense. I could tell something was coming. "Dad," Jason said, clearing his throat. "We're thinking of selling our apartment and moving in with you for a while. Just until we can save up and buy something better." I smiled. "Of course, son. This house has more rooms than I can fill. You're always welcome here." At that time, it felt right, family together under one roof, just like old times. But what I didn't know was that this wasn't about family. It was about control. The first few weeks were fine. Evan brought life back into the house. Claire helped with cooking, and Jason spent evenings fixing the garden. For a while, I felt alive again. Then things started changing. Claire began complaining that my old habits made her uncomfortable, the TV volume too loud, the smell of my coffee, the creak of my rocking chair at night. Jason sided with her every time. Small comments turned into small arguments. "Dad, maybe you could keep your stuff in your room. It's just getting crowded," Jason said one afternoon. "My stuff? This is my house, Jason." "I know, Dad. I'm just saying it's not fair to Claire. We're trying to make it feel like home." That word, home, hit me hard. It already was a home. My home. The one I built with my wife. Over the months, their tone changed. I became a guest in my own house. My meals were questioned, my space limited, my opinions dismissed. I told myself it was temporary, that family meant compromise. Then came the conversation I'll never forget. It was a Sunday evening. I had just carved a roast for dinner, something Beverly used to make. Jason and Claire were already sitting, whispering. When I sat down, Jason didn't even look at me. "Dad," he said flatly, "we've been going over expenses, and it's not fair for us to carry everything. We need you to contribute. Groceries, bills, utilities. Everyone has to do their part." I stared at him. "Jason, this is my house. I own it. You and your family live here rent-free." He didn't flinch. "We're not saying rent. We're saying fairness. Times are tough. Fairness." That word again. I'd spent my entire life working to give him everything he wanted, college, a car, a home. And now, in the house I built with my hands, my own son was asking me to pay my share. Claire looked away, pretending to sip her wine. I set down my carving knife and just watched them. It felt like my heart cracked quietly, without sound. That night, I didn't eat. I went to bed hungry, not for food, but for respect. Days turned into weeks. The tension grew. Jason began keeping track of my groceries. Claire complained if I used the washing machine too long. Evan stopped coming to my room to play, maybe they told him not to bother Grandpa. I felt smaller every day. The house that once held love now echoed with cold civility. I started walking to the park just to breathe, just to remind myself I still existed. One morning, I woke to the sound of moving boxes. Jason and Claire were packing things in the living room. "What's going on?" I asked. "Nothing, Dad. Just organizing," Jason said, but his eyes didn't meet mine. Later that week, I got a letter from a real estate agent addressed to Jason Miller, homeowner. My chest tightened. I called him that evening. "Jason," I said, "why did I get this letter? It says you're the homeowner." He sighed. "Dad, I refinanced the house. The papers were in both our names, remember? We needed the money. It's still ours, don't worry." Ours. That word had lost its meaning. I didn't say anything. I just nodded and walked back to my room. That night, I couldn't sleep. Beverly's picture sat on the nightstand, her soft smile frozen in time. "What did we do wrong, Bev?" I whispered. "How did our boy turn into this?" The next month, Jason told me I should start thinking about other options. "You'd be more comfortable somewhere quiet, Dad. Maybe a senior place. You'll get your own space, your own friends. It's better for everyone. Better for everyone, except me." I packed a small suitcase that night. No one stopped me. Not even little Evan. As I walked out, I turned one last time to look at the house. The porch light was still on. I built that porch with my hands, nailed every plank, painted every inch. Now it wasn't mine anymore. I rented a small studio apartment near the river. It wasn't much, one bed, one chair, one old TV. But it was peaceful. I could breathe again. For months, I lived quietly, surviving on my savings, working part-time at the library. Every night, I'd write letters to Beverly in a notebook. Things I wished I could tell her. How Jason was doing. How I missed her cooking. How I was learning to live again. Then one day, fate turned. I was walking home from the library when I saw a "for sale" sign outside my old house. My heart skipped. I stood across the street, watching strangers tour the lawn I'd once mowed. Jason and Claire were standing on the porch, talking to a realtor. They looked nervous. A neighbor recognized me. "You hear about Jason," she said. "Lost his job 3 months ago. Bank's taking the house." I didn't say anything. Just nodded, my throat tight. That night, for the first time in a long while, I didn't cry. Not out of joy, not out of anger, just peace. Life had a strange way of balancing things. I still saw Jason sometimes, at the grocery store or walking alone with his head down. He never spoke, never looked me in the eyes. Maybe shame does that to a man. But forgiveness, that's something else entirely. Time has a way of softening the sharpest pain. After everything that happened, I learned to live slowly again. I started each morning with black coffee and silence. Sometimes, I'd sit by the window and watch the sunrise over the river. The world still moved on, whether I was ready or not. I didn't talk much those days. Didn't complain. Didn't blame. When you lose everything, even your own family, you stop expecting apologies. You just focus on breathing, one day at a time. Working at the library gave me purpose. It wasn't much, shelving books, helping kids find stories, fixing the old printer that jammed every other day, but it reminded me that I was still useful. People still said thank you. That mattered more than they knew. One evening, a young woman named Emily started volunteering there. She was in her 20s, kind, curious. She reminded me of Beverly when she was young, that same spark in her eyes. She used to bring me coffee and talk about her studies. I didn't tell her much about my past, but she noticed the loneliness anyway. "You always look like you're carrying a story, Mr. Miller," she said once. I smiled. "We all carry stories, Emily. Some just weigh more than others." Over time, she became like family. She'd visit my small apartment on weekends, cook dinner, bring her guitar, and sing songs I'd long forgotten. For the first time in years, I laughed again. Then, one cold afternoon in December, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, Jason was standing there. He looked older. Tired. His hair had thinned, his face unshaven. He wasn't the confident man who once told me to pay rent in my own house. Now, he looked lost. "Dad," he said quietly, I didn't know where else to go. I didn't say anything. I just stepped aside and let him in. He sat on the old couch, the only couch I had. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I messed up, he finally said. Lost the house. Lost my job. Claire took Evan and left. I nodded slowly. I heard. He looked up at me, eyes glistening. I don't expect you to forgive me. I was stupid. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was taking care of my family. I poured him a cup of coffee. And in doing so, you forgot who your family really was. He didn't respond. His shoulders shook. Maybe he cried, or maybe it was just the cold. I didn't reach out. I didn't scold him either. Silence did what words couldn't. That night, he slept on my couch. I sat by the window, staring at the streetlights, wondering what Beverly would say if she saw us now. In the morning, he asked if I could help him find work. I didn't promise anything, but I did what I could. I spoke to a friend at the local repair shop. They needed someone handy, someone willing to work long hours. Jason took the job. Weeks passed. Slowly, I saw something change in him. He started visiting regularly, fixing things around my apartment, bringing groceries. It wasn't much, but it was something. Then one evening, he brought Evan with him. The boy had grown taller, quieter. When I saw him, something inside me melted. He ran up and hugged me tight. "Grandpa, I missed you." That one sentence was enough to wash away years of pain. Jason stood by the door, holding a small box. "Dad," he said, "this is for you." Inside was a set of keys, new keys, shiny and heavy. "It's not much," he said, "but I bought a small cabin near the river. For you. I know you love the water. I just wanted to make things right." I stared at the keys for a long time. It wasn't the gift that moved me. It was the effort, the realization that he finally understood. I smiled faintly. "Jason, I don't need a cabin. I already have what I need." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "Peace," I said. "That's all I ever wanted." "You can't buy that, son. You earn it." He nodded slowly, eyes wet. That was the first honest moment we'd shared in years. Still, I took the keys, not out of need, but as a symbol. A circle closing. A wound finally beginning to heal. Over the next year, we saw each other more often. He worked hard, stayed humble, and rebuilt his life from the ground up. Sometimes life teaches you through loss what love really means. One day, he asked if I'd visit the place he'd bought. I agreed. When we arrived, the cabin was small but beautiful, wooden porch, quiet trees, the sound of the river nearby. He looked proud, but humble. "I wanted you to have a place where you could rest. I know I can't change the past, but maybe I can give you something better in the future." I placed my hand on his shoulder. "Jason, I don't want revenge anymore. I just want you to remember what matters." He nodded. "Family." "Yes," I said softly. "Family. Not money. Not ownership. Not control. Just love." We sat on the porch for a long while that evening. The sun began to set behind the trees, painting the sky with gold and crimson. For the first time, there was no tension, no guilt, just quiet understanding. But life, even when it heals, never forgets to remind you of what it took. A few months later, Jason fell sick. Stress, exhaustion, years of pushing himself too hard, it caught up with him. When he was hospitalized, I stayed by his side every day. The nurses thought I was his father visiting from out of town. They didn't know the story between us. One night, as he lay half asleep, he whispered, "Dad. I'm sorry." I squeezed his hand. "You already said that, son." "No, not like this," he said weakly. "You gave me everything. And I took it all for granted. But you never stopped being my father. Even when I didn't deserve one." My eyes burned, but I didn't cry. "Rest, Jason. We've said enough." He smiled faintly. "Thank you for forgiving me." A few weeks later, he passed away peacefully. The doctor said his heart gave out. I knew it was guilt that had been wearing it down for years. At the funeral, I stood beside his coffin, holding little Evan's hand. Claire came too, quiet, remorseful. She didn't meet my eyes, but she didn't need to. The past was already buried beside Jason. After everyone left, I stayed behind. The wind was cool, the sky gray. I spoke softly to the grave. You found your peace, son. I hope you see your mother now. She'll forgive you too. I walked away, leaving a single white flower on the stone. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the hardest kind of revenge, the one that sets your own heart free. Years later, Evan grew into a fine young man. He visited often, helped me at the library, and listened to my old stories. Sometimes he'd ask about his father. I never spoke of the betrayal. I only told him about Jason's laughter, his dreams, his love for the sea. Children shouldn't inherit their parents' pain. They should inherit their lessons. One evening, when Evan turned 18, he asked, "Grandpa, why do you still keep that house key on your chain? You don't live there anymore." I looked at the small, silver key that hung from my belt loop, the last thing Jason ever gave me. "This key," I said, "isn't for a door. It's a reminder." "Of what?" "That every lock in life can be opened," I said. "But only if you use the right key, patience, forgiveness, and love." He smiled, nodded, and hugged me tight. Now, as I sit by the window of that little cabin by the river, the same one Jason bought, I often watch the sunset and think of how life comes full circle. Revenge doesn't always come with fire or fury. Sometimes it comes quietly, when the ones who hurt you finally understand the pain they caused, and you realize you don't need to hurt them back. In the end, forgiveness became my revenge. It gave me peace when anger could not. And if Beverly were here now, I think she'd smile and whisper, "You did good, old man." I'd smile back at the sky and whisper, "I tried, Bev. I really did." The river keeps flowing, steady and calm. And so do I. Because sometimes, the loudest victory is silence.